Welcome back to the debate. Apologies if we haven't read out your tweets so far, but unfortunately, due to technical reasons, we can't actually see any of them. So hopefully we'll try and cover whatever you wanted to know in our discussions. Right now, we're going to talk Champions League, and ahead of the Champions League draw tomorrow in Monaco, there are discussions to reformat the Champions League, which David Gill, former chief executive of Manchester United, is very much against. These are what the changes are proposed, and quite simply, it means more games. And what goes with more games? More money. So they talk about increasing the competition from 32 to 40 or even 48. If you reach the semis, you automatically qualify for the next season's group stage. But this is the real one. The second group stage is to replace the last 16 knockout. And that guarantees 4 extra matches for teams that qualify.
Ka-ching. That's all it smells of. Unfortunately, I mean, fair play, the Premier League have voiced that they're not happy with it, and I think the Liga have, and Ligue 1. But the real driving force behind this seems to be Serie A. The Juventus chairman is leading this committee that really want to get these extra games and create this extra revenue. You know, they're even talking about potentially, to fit these fixtures in, moving these Champions League games to the weekends. Now, that's going to have a hell of an impact on the domestic leagues, isn't it?
Well, the other things as well, at the moment, genuinely, you get the occasional good game in the group stages.
Group stages, yeah.
But the group stages, they quite often don't go to the wire, do they?
Especially, as you said, towards the end of the group stages as well. Generally, the groups are decided. Yeah. Almost decided. Maybe two games to go. Hopefully, David Gill stays strong and sticks to... Because look how exciting the Champions League was towards the end of it last year.
Fantastic.
Incredible. So, look, as Phil said about the financial side of it is always going to play a key part in it. And the Serie A side of it, obviously the league hasn't been as competitive the last few years, and they're probably looking at that angle to...
So it's not competitive, the Serie A. They need to look at their side of things, not the Champions League side of things. It's just too complicated for me, but Phil, I think you've nailed it. It's just all about money, isn't it?
And you think that they're trying to create these larger leagues so that the more super clubs will play each other more often, and again that will be more attractive for the broadcasters, and there's more bigger games. But no, it just smells wrong.
So what happens to the Europa League then as well? Is that just kind of going to go kind of less and less, or kind of teams further down the league can qualify? Teams further down the league, if you finish 10th in the Premier League, you might get into the Europa League.
Well, there are also some other proposals mooted from the same source in Italy, that if you've qualified for a certain number of years, you should qualify again, based on not even based on your league position. I think that was the most horrifying one.
You're diluting it even more and more. It's going to, obviously, if you win it, it's still incredible.
Well,
but
sorry, John. They were talking about sort of a few months ago, even before what they discuss tomorrow, about having 24 teams set in stone in the Champions League. So
same clubs.
Yeah, same clubs always in, and then a few extra spaces for other qualifiers. Let's say, for example, Ajax might get through. But what that's just going to do is create these super clubs that are getting more revenue. So domestically, they're just going to pull further and further apart in their domestic leagues, and therefore they're always going to be winning. Yes, we've got a big six now, but look at City and Liverpool. You look how strong they are. Yeah. Imagine them getting more and more cash. They're just going to get stronger and stronger.
It's like a step closer to the European Super League.
I mean, you can't ignore it. When we've just come off the back of talking about Bolton and Bury. I know they're very separate competitions, but it just leaves such a horrible taste in the mouth, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. But that will... It's the European powers, and the TV revenue behind everything as well. The clubs, it's just that power, as you said, the gap increasing as well.
But do you actually think the fans want it? Even though, we know the Premier League's feelings, and the clubs in this country, they won't want it, will they?
No. Can't see it. As I said, if you look at those fixtures, the more games, where do you fit them in? You extend your domestic season. We're talking about getting a break in the Premier League. Now that'll have to be expunged, and then we're going to have to play
That's never going to happen, Phil, is it now? Especially with this, because they're going to have to play more and more games. They're complaining now, playing Wednesdays or Thursdays and Sundays, Mondays, Saturdays, Sundays, Wednesdays, Champions League. Some teams are playing Sundays and then Tuesdays. The turnaround's too quick.
You're a big Liverpool fan. Did you go to the Champions League final?
You not see me in my camper van, no?
How many people do you have in it?
three young boys, me lad and his 2 friends, and 3 adults. It was unbelievable.
How many do you have on the way back?
10.
The reason I ask you, the 4 teams that got to the finals last year, they've basically put a proposal to UEFA and said, look, the fan groups have basically said, look, this is ridiculous. We've got to have a much larger percentage of tickets available for the clubs of the teams that reach the final. And also, you've got to have them in stadiums that can, A, be easily
to get to
accessed, and secondly, can hold the sort of numbers that we need. Now, next year it's back to the Ataturk. So 76,000, that's not easy to get to, but 76,000, that's a reasonable sized stadium. The Europa League final is Gdansk, 43,000. Is that enough for a Europa League final?
No, not for any of them. I think the Liverpool's final this season against Tottenham, it should have been played at Wembley. 100% fact, should have been played at Wembley. London, Liverpool, easy. Yeah, it might have been an advantage to Tottenham, but it doesn't matter. Liverpool would have sold their allocation.
You can't do that, Ryan, though, because they in advance, you know, stadium's big.
Yeah,
for
I get that, and it's all money again, isn't it? So they're bidding for
But it has to be, surely, it has to be suitable stadia.
Well, I know fans last season that couldn't go into Madrid because they never had no tickets. Couldn't go in. They followed Liverpool right the way through, home and away, Premier League games, FA Cup games, Carabao Cup games, Champions League games, and he never had a ticket for the final.
What was your official split again? It was
I'm probably thinking about 23,000, John.
Yeah.
And it held what, 80 odd thousand?
Yes, their new stadium.
23 each. The corporate side of things, wow. We were getting quoted for corporate boxes, and I'm talking 20, 30,000 pounds for corporate boxes for 4 tickets. It's just impossible.
What did you charge to go on your corporate bus?
No, I was the corporate bus was very good.
Let's have a quick recap of tonight's Carabao Cup results, and there were some standout results, certainly one that made 2 of the boys in our studio very happy indeed. Not on this, is it on this graphic? Yes, there it is. Sunderland. Big win for them?
Huge win. Yeah. Huge win. You know, obviously Burnley, the manager has been saying they want to go deep into that competition. It's important that they do well, and Sunderland have could have scored a couple more looking at some of the highlights. So a big win for Sunderland, and fair play to them.
Yeah, they seem to have got themselves together as well in the league. A bit of form, a bit of confidence, and that can only give them a bigger boost to what ultimately will be the bigger aim of getting promoted.
Burnley made 10 changes, but I don't suppose you care, do you?
No, I think Sunderland as well made a few changes as well. So I think the team Sean Dyche would have picked, he would have felt confident enough to get a win. But Sunderland obviously turned up on the night. Right,
well, let's see where it gets them. Let's have a look at the draw as well. There's some interesting ties coming up as well. I would imagine your eyes are drawn straight to the top one, John.
Yeah, brilliant. Battle of Portugal. Two Portuguese.
A little bead of sweat dropping down your fod when that came out.
Hey, knowing the manager, he'll be very excited with that draw. He'll be looking forward to, obviously, a very tough game, but pitting his wits against a fellow Portuguese manager, he'd be very excited about it.
OK. Pompey Southampton, that'll be a lively affair as well. Tricky one for you and your boys? Liverpool away to MK Dons?
I'm just happy it's not Reading in front of MK Dons there, because I would have torn my hair out if Reading would have got Liverpool. But no, yeah, listen, I might be able to get to that one. That's only about 3 hours away from me. I might be able to.
Yeah, but signs everywhere when you're in Plymouth.
Yeah, true, yeah.
But also, I mean, look there, Luton Leicester, that's a terrific tie as well, isn't it?
Manchester United Rochdale, it's a good one. You know, talk about making money for the local teams. That's going to probably earn them over £1 million. So, you know, fair play.
Will Crawley be at all disappointed with Stoke? Or will they feel... I mean, it was a great win for Stoke. They desperately needed that as well. Will they feel they're still a potential scalp?
Yeah, they want big instant. They want a big team. You know, they're coming into the competition now, so they would have liked to have got one of the big boys, wouldn't they? But you've got to take it, and hopefully you can get through the next round. So maybe a little tinge of disappointment, but Stoke are still a difficult team to beat. We're obviously good Premier League pedigree in the past few years. So, yeah, if they can get that scalp, then hopefully bigger fish later.